Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and I hope you guys are doing well. We have our 1 month full review of the Galaxy A52 5G. So this phone came out obviously probably like a month ago, April 17th or March 17th, but here we are. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we gotta talk about is the display. This phone is phenomenal. I love the display, pretty much every single part of this display. The only thing I can really say is the bezel, probably, is the only thing that kind of threw me off. That was a little bit unexpected, but quite frankly, I don't mind it. I thought I was gonna care a lot about it, but turns out I don't. And the bezel is really minimal. Right, so I took off the case for dramatic effect, and as you can see, if we can go to some sort of white background, let me see. Alright, so we have a couple of things going on here. Look at the bezel, alright, and decide for yourself whether it is something that's going to bother you or not. For me, honestly, it really isn't something that bothers me. It bothered me at first when I saw it in photos, but then once I got it in person, it was a whole different story. I really enjoy this display a lot. Plus, with the addition of 120 Hz, it just makes everything so smooth. And if we go to settings, we go to display. Here we can see motion smoothness is high. So you see that 120 Hz definitely playing a huge part in terms of performance. It just feels so snappy and smooth, and scrolling and everything. It just feels like butter. So I really do that's why I chose this phone, because of that 120 Hz. Otherwise, I might have just gotten the A52 4G LTE. Another thing I really enjoy about this display is how bright this phone gets. So as you all know, we had 400 nits on peak brightness for the Galaxy A51. And here on the A52, it is so bright I have to turn it down to almost barely anything so you guys can actually see it. Beautiful display. You can see the screen perfectly in direct sunlight. You won't really have an issue with that. Samsung makes the best displays on the market with their cell phones. And despite it only being a 1080 resolution panel, it is very crisp, very sharp, and it's honestly a very crystal clear panel. I'm going to give you a quick demonstration. Alright, here you go. Sorry for the glare. But you can see right there, very nice display, beautiful. I love the colors. Everything about this is just golden. I love the colors, the accuracy, the vibrancy, and the blacks on this display are actual blacks, unlike LCD panels, because this is an AMOLED display, which means if it's black, the pixels are turned off, and so you save a little bit of battery life while still getting an amazing display. So display, absolute 10 out of 10 for me. Now for the design of this phone, I think I actually really enjoy this. If we look at the front display, it's a flat panel and it's very practical, definitely a very good design. Now if we go with the back side, we do see that we have an entire plastic back, but it's okay. It feels a little bit cheap when you tap on here. It feels a little hollow. Not too happy about that, but if you're gonna be rocking a case like I do, you're gonna be fine. Honestly, you won't even feel it. It feels perfectly fine. And as for the camera bump, I mean, if you touch it, you probably will notice it's plastic, but you're not gonna care that much, honestly. And then with the kind of chrome painted sides, you're going to enjoy them a lot. You're going to get a lot of fingerprints if you do rock it naked without a case. But honestly, for the most part, you're going to be fine. And as for this matte finish, I've noticed that it does get a little bit of smudges, as you can see right there probably. And so it's not entirely fingerprint resistant, but you do have, for the most part, a good amount of resistance. But you will have a little bit of smudges. And if we clean it, boom, there we go. Definitely, I do like the design. The camera bump definitely looks similar to the Galaxy S21 Ultra, and you could also argue it looks like the Note 20 Ultra from last year. Overall, I really do like this design. It's definitely something that I think won't get old anytime soon. Taking a quick tour around the phone, we have on the top we have our micro SD card expansion and then our little microphone. Then we have our power and volume buttons. Then on the bottom we have our headphone jack, speaker, mic, and USB Type-C charging port. So it's good to see that we have that headphone jack. Some people thought it was going to be kind of like taken out of the phone. I don't know why. And then on the left side, we have nothing. As for software, we have Android 11 One UI 3.1. And obviously, this has a ton of features considering that it's Samsung's One UI. It's all about features and obviously reachability. So this is obviously good for one-hand use. Here's one feature that I really like. You get the entire display. You can play your games. You could go on Instagram. You can do whatever you want to do. And it's all on this little screen. And obviously, you're going to have that filler up there. But honestly, it's really cool. Plus, you can switch it to this side if you really wanted to. And also, you can access your settings and kind of configure it to your own liking. Plus, you have things like link to Windows. If you have a Windows laptop, it's very, very helpful. And you have always on display, customizable, very nice to have. You have music share, you have focus mode, nearby share, which actually is for all Android phones. And you also have live caption, which is actually really cool. Pretty much does give you captions on videos that might not have captions. And you obviously have smart share and all of these beautiful features that Samsung gives you on their One UI skin, and so many more, along with the edge panel, which has been very helpful, very cool to have. Definitely something I enjoy using pretty often because I do a lot of multitasking, and this is actually very, very helpful. And as it is, you get most of the features that you get on Samsung's flagship phones. And this is a near flagship phone in my opinion. This is definitely high end in the terms of mid-range phones. This is definitely one of the best. It's going to be one of the best phones of this year, no doubt. So this one is going to be around $500. I got it for $500. You can probably get it for cheaper than I paid for it because prices have gone down. With the software, you get a lot of value for your money. Now, for the processor, we have the Snapdragon 750G, and so this is definitely one of the higher end kind of processors in terms of mid-range phones. Definitely, this is one of the near flagship grade processors, and I can tell you that because this performance reminds me a lot of the Galaxy S10. I've looked at the S10, I've played around with the S10. This performs like the S10, and I really do like that because it's pretty much a flagship performer. It does a pretty good job of handling all your daily tasks, all your daily needs. You could go into a bunch of different games. You can go into Asphalt 9. This phone can run all the games that you need it to run, and honestly, I don't have a complaint with this phone. It really is a pretty good phone overall, and I really do enjoy using this as pretty much for anything such as gaming or video editing, which I do pretty often, and this phone handles it all. I can't really complain about the performance of this device. For the money, I think it's perfectly fine. Very good performance. Definitely a huge upgrade over the A51. Here's a little gaming performance, and it'll race while I talk. Now, one thing I've noticed during gaming is that it's very smooth. The 120 Hz on this display is pretty crazy. There are obviously still some apps and games that don't support that full 120 Hz, but the ones that do are amazing to play. The processor power is more than enough to run these type of games, and then once you have this 120 Hz, you just can't go back to a normal 60 Hz panel. It's just so butter, and I really do enjoy gaming on this phone or even watching videos. As you can see, the detail and the color on this game portrayed on this screen is amazing. Definitely one of my favorite things about Samsung phones is their panels are just some of the best in the game, if not the best that I've ever seen on a smartphone. I mean, they're just fantastic at it. I don't know how they do it, but they do. And the processor honestly does a good job. I have noticed that during long periods of gaming you will have a little bit of heat build up, but it's perfectly fine. The game doesn't suffer that much, but you will see occasional frame drops when you are in a prolonged gaming session. Also, if your battery for some reason is below 30%, the phone, for whatever reason, if you have it kind of just laying there with 120 hertz on, it's gonna heat up a good amount. Like, I was actually really concerned because I left it on the couch with 120 hertz. The screen was on, it was only on like the internet, and it just heated up a lot. So I don't know what's up with that, but just keep that in mind. All right, if we go into battery, moving on to the battery life, this phone has a 4,500 milliamp hour battery, and honestly I found it to be more than enough. Now, there are two kind of conditional scenarios in this phone. One where you use it with 60 hertz, and two where you use it with 120 hertz. Now, there's a third option, but I don't know if a lot of people use it, but it's 60 hertz with power saving mode. Now, I'm going to go through them real quick. So, with 120 hertz, you can get through your whole day almost kind of perfectly fine. You'll probably be with 15% left on the phone. If you go with 60 hertz, you'll be left with like somewhere around 35%. So you can see a pretty big difference in terms of battery life. With 120 hertz, you will lose some of that. Now, that's okay. As you can see, I have 4 hours and 40 minutes with on-screen on time, and I have 34% left, so I haven't really charged this phone at all, and it's 6 o'clock, so it should last me somewhere around till 9 or 10. Theoretically, of course. Now, with 60 hertz, it could definitely last you the whole day, no problem. But with 60 hertz and power saving mode, if you have a long day, a long work day, or you're going to some fancy gathering and you just know that you're not going to be around a charger for a while, 60 hertz plus power saving mode on this device is an absolute beast. No issues with battery life. You are just going to have this phone be a tank when it comes to battery life if you do those two combinations. Fantastic battery life. But overall, if you're going to really push this phone with 120 hertz and high brightness, you're probably going to get around 5 hours. Personally, for me, I've gotten 7 hours out of this phone, and I'm not even joking. But for the most part, that's pushing it to the extreme, of course. For the most part, you will get around 6 hours in total. Sometimes you get 5.5, sometimes you get 6.5. So pretty good battery life overall. I am enjoying the good battery life on this phone. Despite the 120 hertz, it does a pretty good job of handling it, and the battery life for the most part is pretty good. So I have really no complaints. Now, one thing I will say, you have 25 watt fast charging support, but it only comes with a 15 watt fast charger. So you're not taking full advantage of that 25 watt fast charging speeds that it supports. Kind of mad that Samsung didn't include the 25 watt fast charger, but you can buy it on Amazon for like 15 bucks. I'll put the link in the description. Let's now talk about the camera. All right, so here we have the cameras. We have a couple of things going on here. So this camera is an upgrade over the A51 in terms of megapixel count. So the A51 had a 48 megapixel sensor, and this one has a 64 megapixel primary sensor. Then we have the 12 megapixel ultra wide, 5 megapixel depth sensing lens, and a 5 megapixel macro lens. So only 2 of these are actually going to be useful. Maybe the depth sensing lens will play a part when you go to portrait. Now, if we go back to photo, we have the ultra wide lens, which, as you can see, gets a wide field of view. This one doesn't have the optical image stabilization, but the main sensor does. And now you can crop in twice. You could also go to 4 times and then 10 times. Now, one thing I will tell you guys is that despite this thing not having a telephoto lens, it actually takes better zoomed in photos than the Galaxy A51. I've noticed that despite it not having a zoom lens, it's still pretty good at zoom. The quality, if we compare them, I'll probably put a picture up in just a bit. The quality between the zoom on this phone and the A51 is pretty significant, I think, in my opinion. It really depends on the picture you're taking, but I have seen this phone do a lot better job with zoom than the A51. Now, if we go to video, we obviously have our super steady right there, and we have a couple of options here. We have 4K at 30, Full HD at 60 and 30, and we have HD at 30. So a couple of options there. I like that. Although I will say, for whatever reason, Samsung is not allowing 4K recording with the optical image stabilization. Not sure why that's going on. I wish they would have done that. I think they can do that through a software update. And obviously we have our night mode. A couple of options here. We have AR Doodle, Panorama, Food, Macro. The macro lens hasn't been that great. Obviously it's been slightly improved over the Galaxy A51. I will show a bunch of example photos at the end of this video, maybe, or right after this section, and decide for yourself. So you also have slow-mo, which for whatever reason still keeps being choppy. I've noticed that for whatever reason the video on this phone, when it comes to slow motion, is choppy. The super slow-mo is fine, but the slow motion is choppy. Specifically when you're recording something that you're moving around the phone, it tends to kind of chop in the middle of it, so it's kind of annoying. It really is. Hyperlapse has been pretty cool. Single take, never really used it, and fun mode, definitely never really used it either. And one thing that I should tell you about the fun mode is that when you take a photo or a video, you can only share it to your friends on the platform. You can't really share them somewhere else. You can't really do anything else. You can't post it on your story. You can't do any of that for whatever reason, and I found that kind of annoying, so I stopped using it. I am so happy we have Pro Video mode. We have our options right here like we do in the Pro Photo mode, and we have a couple of grid lines, and you can just record. It's really cool that they included that. This is mostly found on their higher end phones, so it's really cool that they brought it down here. Now, take a look at some sample photos and videos. Alright, so we made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. As you know, I'm a big fan of this phone and I can't wait to spend more time with it. I will obviously keep you guys updated as to what's going on down the line. And of course, I do like this phone a lot. And just a quick, I just want to mention this. Thank you guys so much for 100 subscribers plus. I really do appreciate it. It's a small number, I know, but from someone who started with 0, 100 seems like a lot, and honestly this means a lot. Thank you so much. We'll be doing a giveaway around 500 subscribers, or maybe even 1,000, I'm not sure yet, So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Alright guys, that was the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you, of course, like always, hopefully, I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, stay safe. Peace.